back to chapter 1 of John Maxwell's Invaluable Laws of Growth, 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. I hope the first lesson was beneficial for you guys. Just a reminder, help encourage me to continue these videos if you found it helpful. But we're going to be looking into the law of intentionality, which is going to kind of highlight some hindrances to our growth, some growth gaps that we have, and I hope you guys are blessed by the content. The first law that we're going to look at in these 15 laws of growth by John Maxwell is the law of intentionality, being intentional about our growth. We got to understand the principle that we want to look at is this: growth doesn't happen automatically. All right. It doesn't just happen to you. Arnold Schwarzenegger. You guys have all probably heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger. You probably do it in an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice right now. I'm not going to do it for you right now, but he was the 7-time Mr. Olympia in bodybuilding. He changed the world of bodybuilding. He is he is the person that most bodybuilders have been influenced by to this day. Well known in that world, changed the sport forever. Really, he became a famous actor. You probably know some of his movies, some of them cheesy, some of them not so cheesy, but regardless of the fact, he was a successful movie star, had that iconic figure, the Terminator. Right. We all, when I think about my ambitions and my goals in athletics or in weightlifting or whatever else, I was heavily influenced by this dude, man. I was driven by like his discipline and his desire to accomplish his goals. It influenced me and many of my friends growing up. And so just an awesome guy. The Terminator, you've probably heard, you've probably seen some of his cheesy movies, you've probably seen some of his better movies, but you probably know him as Terminator. And he was also became the governor of the state of California, and he was a self-made success story. He spoke very little English when he came over here from Austria, and yet he was able to make a life for himself, not just a life for himself, but to just the epitome of someone who basically kind of reaches his full potential by being driven and being intentional about what he's going after. This is what Arnold Schwarzenegger says. He says, you have to have a vision. And then the whole thing is about planning, persistence, working toward that vision every single day. What he's describing is discipline, man. You got to be intentional about your planning. I remember trying to get into bodybuilding one time, or like just, considering it. I was like, man, maybe I want to be like Arnold one day. And I remember, his meal preps, his meals were planned out all day long. I fall short of that, man. I'm not very good at dieting, that sort of thing. But I remember just seeing how structured it was and seeing how his routine, his day in and day out persistence and going to the gym, staying on his dietary goals each and every day and working. He was not somebody who just took steroids or something and showed up at the building. He's somebody who put in the work each and every day. And that took sacrifice. And so Arnold says that you got to have a vision and then you got to put that thing into practice. Paul tells young Timothy to train yourself for godliness. And as I said before, I'm going to I'm putting in biblical aspects, biblical principles in all of this. Paul says that physical training, as Arnold would do, is of some value, but train yourself for godliness. So if you want spiritual enrichment, then he says you have to train yourself for that. That's something that you have to do day in and day out. Discipline is not just something for those outside the church or some secular goals or secular development. It is for every area of your life. Discipline is going to result in success. It's about doing the things that you don't want to do now so that you can reap the rewards later. And so even in your spiritual walk, he says you got to train yourself for godliness. Now, God gives you the gifts, God gives you the skills, God gives you the Holy Spirit to help you, but he also expects for you to come alongside that and you to go through the disciplines of prayer, go through the disciplines of Bible intake and reading and studying and meditating on the scriptures, and then putting those things into practice. And oftentimes, if you're going to be successful in that, you have to have a plan going into that. You've got to be persistent, sticking with that plan, and you're going to have to work at it. We don't earn our salvation, but we work from salvation to be everything that God has called us to be. And so the question that we want to start this off with is, do you have a plan for personal growth? Like, is there a plan that you have put in place that's going to ensure that you are individually growing? And for me, I'm not I'm not a big planner. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've struggled with that in the past, and I haven't been real good at that. And so, if I have people in my life, mentors in my life who have spoken in my life at different times that kind of posed the same question to me. It started off with a man named John Taylor. He was a pastor and a friend of mine, and kind of helped disciple me in certain areas. But he used to um, put in place, and he showed me like kind of how he went about his day and how he planned out his preaching. All right. Larry Black is the music minister I work with at Raymond Road Baptist Church when I was pastoring there. And I noticed, and I watched him and watched how he planned his day. And he had it down to the minute of what his day was going to look like. He was very goal driven, very intentional about what he did. And the same with Dr. Steve Stone, who was also worked for the Baptist building. And I watched him. I watched how he structured his day, watched how he planned each day out and planned the next day. And then the next day he would go back to his planner and he would work through all of his activities, help him be successful in his career goals and what God had called him to do. All of these three men, when I looked at their lives, I asked myself, do I have a game plan? The answer was no. Honestly, I was doing nothing like what they were doing. Now, I had a plan in place in a sense that, like, I knew that I had goals that I wanted to achieve. I knew somewhat how to reach those goals. If I wanted to get bigger, faster, and stronger, I knew basically from what was given to me by coaches how to do that. And so I kind of had a general goal when it came to fitness, and I had a general idea of how to go about that. But any little thing that would come along would get me off of that plan because I did not intentionally plan to achieve those goals, like and really pave a way for me to be successful in that. When I look at these guys' lives, no matter what it is that you're trying to do, these people had plans, these people were persistent, they were consistent, and they were working towards those plans. And so for me, just seeing these guys, seeing these examples, seeing my need to become a better leader, seeing my need to become a better pastor, seeing my need to be better organized, seeing my need to have a game plan going into how in the world I'm going to plan out a sermon series, or how in the world I'm going to even outline a sermon. Like, I knew my goal was to be a better preacher. My goal and my calling in life is to preach and eventually to pastor. I placed myself under the mentorship on some level of these guys, whether they knew it or not. This Larry didn't really know I was being mentored by him, but I was taking notes, seeing how he had his day planned, and desiring that, yet I did not have one myself. And so my game plan was, I saw a need, I had goals, become a better preacher, become a better student of the Bible, learn the information that I needed to go to be the best pastor, to be the best preacher I could be. So I went to books, man. I went to seminary. I went to seminary professors, asked their input. I got their advice, and I went to other mentors to help me gain the information that I needed. And so that was my game plan, basically. But even this, even though it helped me head in the right direction, um, I haven't been specifically intentional about these things. I've managed areas of my life. Like I said, I planned certain things, but having a game plan for growing in all the areas that I needed to grow, I just had basically goals. And goals are good. And if you have goals, you're going to hit them from time to time. But if you have a game plan, you are more accurate in your aim, and you're going to hit them more and more likely. You don't want to just find yourself managing life. You want to basically take control of it and do it on your own. And so, spiritual, I had general goals, general daily goals. I still have general daily goals. I'm going to pray. My goal is to read the scriptures. My goal is to meditate on what I read, to apply what I read to my life. Yet I still don't have like a basic game plan. And well, I had to go and get me a reading plan to go through to manage the Bible reading that I was doing. I had to get a prayer journal to try to gather my thoughts, and because my brain's all over the place, and I had to organize those thoughts. But I did not have a planned out system in place that would help me be more successful. And this is the time that I'm going to be reading, and this is what I'm going to try to do, and this is what I'm going to try to pray, and when I'm going to try to pray, and how long I'm going to try to pray. I'm going to do it in this time block, and so on and so forth. I had general daily goals, but not a real game plan. And I had some discipleship stuff that I was working through, and some things and some accountability that I had in place but not a set system that can be helpful, that's structured, that will keep me on the right path to ensure that I become all that I can be in these areas. And so what I found myself doing was working really hard, man. If you think about all the stuff, you know, it took a lot of work to read. It took a lot of work to study. It took a lot of work to find books. It took a lot of work to weed through certain books and figure out those things weren't good for me, and spend all that time doing all of that, and going to different people who had different goals for themselves and different goals and expectations for me. And so I had to weed through a lot of that stuff, and it cost me a lot of time, cost me a lot of energy, cost me a lot of money. I worked really hard, and I found myself getting close to burnout. So if you don't have a purpose and you don't have a plan like lined out, then really and truly you're going to have a difficult time reaching your potential. So we don't get there by hard work. That's been my strategy. I just kind of hoped for things to pay off, right? I would approach it with a lot of hard work, put in a lot of effort. But what I found myself is doing a lot of hard work in a lot of different areas, and ended up just hoping that something will work out for me. And I found that I have not been as successful as I could have been in my goals of what I was trying to do, because I was all over the map. Hard work doesn't guarantee success, and it's not a strategy. Okay. So the question is, what have you been working hard at? And do you have a strategy put in place to help you develop? And are you hopeful, or is life just happening to you? And for me, a lot of the times, I mean, yes, I have areas in my life where I'm disciplined, and I do have plans when it comes to some of my hobbies and some of my other spiritual disciplines, like I said, my reading plan and things like that. I do have stuff mapped out in my brain on some level, but because I don't have it, you know, a strategy completely in place, it's been difficult to work through this stuff, and it's caused me to lose focus from time to time and pursue things that were not in line with the path that God has for me. And so, are you hopeful, or is life just happening to you? So, the question we want to ask is, how do you get better at what you do? How do you improve relationships? How do you gain more depth of knowledge and wisdom as a person? How do you gain insight? How do you overcome obstacles? Do we do it by working harder, working longer, waiting and sitting back and waiting for it to happen to us? And the answer to that is obviously no. You don't do that by simply sitting back and waiting. Now you can, like I said, you can reach some goals every once in a while. If you're focusing on your goals, and you're like, I want to get to become a bodybuilder, or I want to be a professional athlete, or a college athlete, or a starter on the high school team, you might hit some of the goals that you place for yourself. If you don't have a plan, if you're aiming at the goal, you may hit some, but it doesn't guarantee your growth. But here's the thing, this is what John Maxwell points out: success comes through personal growth. And so if you're focusing on your growth, you will grow 100%, and you will always hit goals. So you may hit goals if you focus on your goals, but if you focus on your growth, you're always going to hit goals. Okay? If you focus on your growth, you will grow and always hit goals. All right, growth gaps. This is we all have misconceptions that keep us from growing. Okay? Things that are in the way that keep us from becoming what we truly know we should become. And James Allen, he references a book that he read, and I think he said he read it when he was in seventh grade or 7 years old even. I can't remember what age it was, but when he was young, his dad gave him this book, and he thought about this quote when John Maxwell realized he did not have a plan. He didn't have a growth plan. He had goals. He worked really hard. He had achievements in his life. He had all these accomplishments and relationships that he built and mentors and things like that, but he had no real goal for growth. And that's what we're getting at. We need goals for growth. James Allen says, people are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. And I think that's true. There's a gap between where you are and where you want to be and where you need to be. These are called growth gaps, and we need to find out how we bridge those two gaps. And so this is what this chapter is about. We're going to walk through some of these things. Growth gaps are beliefs or misconceptions that we have that create a gap that keeps us from reaching our full potential. And the first one that we want to talk about is the assumption gap. And listen, all of these it's 8 misconceptions that we have. And all 8 of these I struggle with. All 8 of these have been gaps in my life hindering me along the way. I'm an overthinker. I'm a worrier. I let stress get to me. I let the fear get to me and things like that. And so all of these areas I've struggled with. And so I'm coming to you, with transparency that these are areas that, listen, it's okay. We all have these. So the idea is for you to examine yourself and to see which one of these gaps that you have the most trouble with, and we're going to figure out how to bridge those gaps. And so the first one is the assumption gap. I assume I will grow automatically, or I'll automatically grow. And it's a subconscious belief that your mental, your spiritual, and emotional growth will grow just like your physical. When we're young, when we're kids, we're babies, when we're fed, we begin to grow. Our physical bodies grow, obviously. Our minds and brains develop more. We can take in more information. Our memory gets better and things like that. And so there is an assumption that you're just going to grow in wisdom. You're going to grow in knowledge in the areas that you need to grow in, and that you are going to grow just like you would if you were growing physically, in your spiritual growth as well. I see this a lot in your spiritual growth. People just assume they come to faith in God and all of a sudden they're going to start becoming a super Christian or something like that and become more and more like Jesus just by sitting back. And that's not the truth. The idea is to take on new information, to learn new information, and to grow and develop as you put forth effort in pursuing God. And so it's not just going to be an automatic thing, yet that's what a lot of people assume. It's just going to happen to them as they go. We don't improve by simple living. We have to be intentional about it. Bruce Springsteen, y'all know, born in the USA, right? At times, at a time, I think I have a misprint here. A time comes, I think is what it's supposed to say, when you need to stop waiting for the man you want to become and start being the man you want to be. I'm going to have to go back and fix that typo. Sorry about that. No one improves by accident. Now, you might improve a little bit, but nobody improves by accident. And so if you think about this, when you're a child and you have parents who are intentionally pouring into you so that you may grow mentally, so that you may grow spiritually, right? That you may grow emotionally, so that you know how to have relationships with people and interact with other people in the culture and the world. They're intentionally putting a game plan, right, in place for you so that your potential can be cultivated. But that's someone doing that for you along the way. And we get used to this. And so as time goes on, you're going to school, right? And your teachers are imparting information. They have lesson plans strategically put in place to help you grow in knowledge, to help you grow in some wisdom, if you're at a Christian school, to help you grow spiritually. They're putting these things in place. It's put upon you. It's not something that you have to go out and get on your own. Now, you do have to pay attention to class, but here's my point. As you work through your education, you are so used to people pouring into you and structuring your day for you. I mean, you've got from 8 to 3 every day structured out for you where information's coming in, and this is how you get to the next step. This is point A. This is the next step, point B. This is the next step, point C. This is how you do it. They pretty much put a growth plan on you. But after that, people, they don't have anybody doing that for them. Nobody's going to be making them do that after their formal education. It's something that you might expect as you reach, you get into your career, you start working. And yes, on some level, they're going to put some sort of structure before you or some sort of training for your job for you. But here's the thing, that's going to be the bare minimum. What I've found, especially in my leadership roles, I've worked as a manager at FedEx, a manager at UPS. I've seen it in the fire department as I was in the process of about to be promoted there and everything else. I've seen how training works. I've been a trainer at different places, and I've seen how people drop the ball on training. They're going to give you just enough to get your job done, and they're not going to come and say, here's how you succeed and go above and beyond, unless you get a special individual. They're just doing their job, and they're likely most of the time, especially in today's society, are just doing what they need to do to get by. So where the company makes them, where the fire department makes them, where whatever the company and their policy is makes them, they're going to train you in the breaking ground. They're going to train you in the areas that you can be efficient at your job, but not to excel and put you at the next level, unless, of course, you take ownership and express interest in that. And so here's the thing, since nobody's doing that for you, you must take ownership of your own growth process. No one is going to do that for you. And John MacArthur points this out in his book here. So the assumption gap, if you want to improve your life, you must improve yourself first, and you must make that a tangible target, something that can grasp, something that you can go after, something that you can work towards. If you want to improve your life, you have to improve yourself, because nobody's going to come and try to do that for you. Second gap is the knowledge gap. The knowledge gap. I don't know how to grow, and I'm gonna be honest, man. That's been a story of my life on several occasions. You know, there's a desire for me to grow, but oftentimes it's unclear how I go about doing that. Everywhere that I've been to work, I wanted to advance. I wanted to grow. And when you start talking to other people at your job, or when you start talking to people, how'd you get to where you are? Most of them, you know, they're not going to give you a clear path on how to get there, or they're not going to take time and mentor you and show you where they got. Now, like I said, you're going to have some special individuals along the way who are going to take time, who see that, who care about people, who see the need to mentor people. There's going to be some people who've been successful who want to do what the ultimate end of growth is all about, is to give back and to be generous, because people have been generous to you and God has been generous to you. They're going to see that that's their purpose in life, is to give, right? And they're going to spend the time to show you the way and how to get there. But most people don't know how to grow. When you start asking people, how do you grow as an individual? How do you do this thing? They don't have a clear answer for you. And so most people, they live the hard way. They come from the school of hard knocks. This is me. I've learned, and because I grew up in a household, I didn't have a father in my home growing up. I had to figure out things on my own. Well, I got to the place where I was like, I would figure out, you know, the things that were worthy of my time, things that were not that difficult, things that I had to do. Okay, when I was forced into the situation, I would learn those things and take the time and effort to try to be intentional about learning those things. I need to learn how to put gas in the car. I need to learn how to change the oil. I need to learn how to check my oil. I need to learn how to change a tire. Those things, the things that I knew that would come up, I spent the time to try to figure out. Okay, but the rest of it, man, it's school of hard knocks. You live, you make mistakes. Oftentimes those are detrimental, they're destructive in your life. You make those mistakes and you learn from them, hopefully, and you move on. Sometimes we make the same mistakes over and over and over and over again, and we never learn from them, and we never move on. Mistakes are going to happen, as we're going to talk about in a second, and you can learn from them, but it's better to have a game plan coming into it, all right? And sometimes if you're living from the school of hard knocks, you change a little bit for the better, and sometimes you actually change for the worse. The lessons that come through that way of living, they're random, and they're often difficult lessons. And so it's better to go ahead and get that knowledge that you need. So plan your growth intentionally. As I stated before, train yourself for the purpose of godliness is what ideal life for a Christian. I'm incorporating this into my biblical classes. We want to train ourselves for the purpose of godliness. And here's the thing, a lot of people decide they want to grow spiritually. They decide that they want to be a better Christian. They just can't seem to figure out why. Every once in a while they get it right. Every once in a while they fail. Well, the truth of the matter is, if they would put forth the effort for spiritual disciplines, not for salvation, but from salvation, as Peter tells us that we've been given everything that we need for life and for godliness. If they would take the time and put forth the effort and go through the sacrifices of making every effort to add to our faith, godliness and all of these things, to put forth some effort into that, then they will find themselves growing tremendously and reaching their full potential. You want to decide where and what you want to grow in. That's for you to decide. Where do I need to grow? Not somebody else decide from you. Now they can help you and give you insight and all that, but you must decide where it is that you want to grow or need to grow in, and what it is that you want or need in your life and what should be done. You need to choose what you will learn, and you will follow through with the discipline, going at a pace that you set. I've done this in my own life. I've had to weed out some hobbies that were really not beneficial to me. And so I've narrowed those things down and I've found the ones that bring me the most joy, that bring me the most fulfillment. And in order to learn, like say boxing or kickboxing or jiu-jitsu or whatever it may be, I had to choose what I wanted to learn and how to get and reach the goals that I had to get. So I had to get the lessons. I had to buy the books. I had to seek it out on YouTube or find whatever I need to find. But I had to choose, and I got the chance to discipline myself and to go at my own pace. If you think about it, growth opportunities are everywhere. Whenever you begin to plan and grow intentionally, you're going to see that opportunities begin to present themselves. When you decide, I'm going to go get knowledge on this, when I decided I want to become a better preacher, like I knew I needed, I was called to ministry. I knew I was called to pastor. I knew I was called to preach, or to preach specifically first. Man, I knew that I didn't know much about the Bible. I knew that I had to get it right. I knew that people weren't just going to sit there and listen to somebody up there just running their mouth and didn't have any content behind it, just fluff or, filler. I had to learn the Bible, and so I had to find the Bible first and foremost and get it for myself and learn. I had to look at the books and the commentaries and make sure that what I was doing was in line with orthodox biblical teaching, and that I just affirmed what God was already revealing to me. I had to learn how to structure a sermon so that it gets people's attention and holds their attention. I had to learn these things, and I did it by going out intentionally getting books, intentionally setting a time aside to get that information and learn that information. And what happened is I didn't just have opportunities to fill in a pulpit from time to time because of my knowledge, because of my information, and people saw that I had answers from the Bible, right, to some of their questions. I was given opportunities to teach Sunday school. I was given opportunities people called me to potentially be their pastor, given an opportunity to pastor. And so the more that I developed in these areas, the more opportunities were available to me. And the same goes for coaching. The more that I learned about athletics, the more that I learned about football, the more that I put that information in my mind and began to practice that information. Obviously, the opportunities opened up for me to have seasons like I've had this past, as transitional seasons in my life where God has taken care of me and sustained me. But I wouldn't have had these opportunities if I had no understanding of coaching or no understanding of relationships. And so what I'm saying is, if you intentionally take the steps that you need to do to grow and get the knowledge necessary, that you're going to have to do this on your own. But when you do that, it's going to give you tools that are going to open up endless possibilities for you, multiple possibilities for you, and you're going to start seeing the world as an open book for open opportunities. And they're going to be everywhere. The world opens up to you. You'll accomplish more, obviously. You'll learn more, obviously. Lead more, because like I said, people are going to see that you know, and people are going to see that you have valuable information, and people are going to try to get that information and seek, and it's going to bring fulfillment to you as you begin to help these people more, which is what it is all about: helping others, love God, love others, helping other people in this world, being a better human being. That's what it's all about. And so the world expands to you when you are intentional about gaining knowledge, okay? So outside of your faith, the decision to grow in this could impact your life more than any other. And there's a timing gap. It's just not the right time to begin. I think we've all decided we were going to do stuff and decided, hey, it's not the right time. Hey, look, it's time I got myself in some shape, right? My shape is more round. I want to get it squared away. But it's man, I've been eating so much. I've gotten so fat. I've gotten so out of shape. I can't even move, man. It's time. But it's just not the right time. I've got baseball. I've got football. I've got, ballet practice. I've got all these things going on. This timing issue becomes an issue for each and every one of us, right? It's just not the right time to begin. There's a riddle that he gives in his book that his dad used to tell him. He says, 5 frogs sat on a log. 4, I put jumped off. That's not true. Okay, it's supposed to say 4 decided to jump off. 4 decided to jump off. How many are left? So if 4 jumped off, obviously there'd be 1 left. But it's supposed to say, because I have a typo here, 4 decided to jump off. How many are left? And the answer to that is not 1, it's 5. And the reason it's 5 is because there's a difference between deciding to do something and then actually doing it, okay? A lot of people decide it's time to grow. A lot of people decide it's time to get serious about my faith. It's time that I make advancements in my career. Man, I've decided that it's time that I'm going to pay off my debt. I've decided it's time to be all I can be, right? We all can decide that, but until we are doing that, nothing's going to get accomplished. And he quotes a politician, Frank Clark, here. He says, what great accomplishments we'd have in the world if everyone had done what they intended to do. It's the law of diminishing intent. The longer you wait to do something that you should do now, the greater the odds that you will never actually do it. And I don't know about you, but I have found this to be true in my life. The longer you wait to do something, you're probably not going to do it. All right. That's just a matter of fact. So whether you feel prompted to start growing or not, you don't feel like it's the right timing, but if you know that you should, whether you feel prompted to start growing and develop or not, now is the time to start. This dude, Leo Biscaglia, says life lived for tomorrow will always be a day away from being realized. So if you're saying, I'll get ready, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll get after it tomorrow, then you might find yourself never getting after it. You'll never get much done unless you do it before you are ready. So the answer is to start today. Start today. Once you start growing intentionally, you can keep growing and keep asking what's next. All right, then there's the mistake gap, and this one gets me more than any of them, I believe. Okay, I'm afraid of making mistakes. All right, when it comes to serving God, when it comes to putting myself out there, man, there's always a fear of failure. And this probably stems from, first off, like if it comes to, like, I don't want to be outside of God's will, so it's hard for me to make decisions. It has been in the past, been hard for me to make decisions because I didn't want to be out of God's will, and currently it still needs to be something that you think about from time. You obviously don't want to be outside of God's will, but when He hasn't spoken, explicitly or clear on this, then if He lays a desire on your heart, then act in faith and know that God is sovereign and God will ultimately be working things out for your good. And so I've had to kind of overcome this in my own life. But the second reason is because of what people think, man. We're people pleasers, whether we know it or not. People and their ideas and their judgment of us often is the reason we get into ourselves in the situations that we get in, and the reason that we create the identities that we create for ourselves. And so whether we're doing it subconsciously or not, we all care about what other people think. And so it determines who we become. And so it also hinders us from going forward because we're scared to make mistakes. We're scared of what people might think. We're scared of, looking foolish or looking like, a crazy person or whatever that might be. Or you're scared of, making the wrong decision and losing something from it. But here's the thing, growth requires mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes in life. It's just a part of the game. It's what you do with those mistakes that matter. Do you learn from those mistakes and move forward? Do you have a plan put in place that's going to help you move forward in those mistakes? Or are you just, like I said, living the school of hard knocks and making mistakes and randomly and not learning from them and not moving forward in those? Looking foolish is the price of admission if you want to improve, though. So I don't know anybody who's put themselves out there, right, who didn't on some level look foolish. There's nothing worse than looking at somebody and saying, oh, that idiot, I can't believe he's throwing his investment into that. I can't believe he's doing something so stupid like that. Where's his security net? Where's all that going? He looks foolish on the front end, and sometimes he even messes up. And see, I told you that endeavor will fail, but if they get back up and they keep pushing and keep moving, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, readjusting, realigning, and getting back after it, the chances, these people often find themselves being successful, and we find ourselves with our jaws hitting the floor, wishing we would have had the courage that they had to step out and make those mistakes. So you're going to make mistakes, and I've had to learn this. I'm a perfectionist, and if I don't feel like I can do anything good, then I won't try it at all. If I feel like I might fail, then I'm scared what people might think. And so I've had to really adjust my thinking in this area and take steps of faith and take risks because that's whenever you start seeing yourself reach potential. Here's a question. Why is it so hard to admit we don't know? Robert Schuller says, what would you attempt to do if you knew you wouldn't fail? And so that's kind of key to figuring out your passion, right? It's kind of key to figuring out your purpose in life. If there's something that's consistently coming back to your heart and you can't help but think about it, like, I wish I could do this. I really wish I want to do this. Really, really need to do this. Whatever that is, what would you do if you knew that you wouldn't fail at that? That's a good question to ask yourself. And so try things that you believe are beyond your capabilities. Like even if you seems to be like, there's no way I could stand up in front of people and speak, man. I took a speech class. I tried that before. I was forced to do that. But when the calling came and it was clear in my heart that I'm supposed to be a teacher, that I'm supposed to be a preacher, and that I'm supposed to lead from a pulpit, it didn't matter the size of the congregation. It was like I didn't want to fail in front of all these people. These things are inevitable. They're going to happen. I'm gonna make a fool out of myself. But I came to a place that said, like, if God's calling me to this, if this is what He desires in my life, then I'm going to take a step and I'm going to do this, even though they seem like they're beyond my capabilities. And what I stood on was the fact that God says He will give you everything that you need. And as I stepped off into that role, did I do it perfectly the first time? No. Did I make mistakes? Yes. Did I stutter here and there? Yes. Did I get back off my notes and I had to get back on my notes? Sure. But the more that I did that, the more that I saw that it was not the ability to public speak and ability to preach the word to people, regardless of how many are out there. It became like attainable for me. I saw that God was providing, and I saw that He was sharpening and actually, making me better at it. And I saw that, man, things that one time I believed I could not possibly do, I saw myself doing them. I saw myself getting better at them just because I started, and then it kept me wanting more. And so whatever that is for you, man, take steps that you believe that may be beyond your capabilities, but are in your heart's desire, that will not leave you alone. Could be your calling in life, and it might be something you just need to take a step of faith, take risks, and risk failure, risk laughter, risk humility, or whatever else might be standing in your way. That mistake gap is keeping you from reaching your full potential. Remember, if you want to grow, you need to get over any fear of making mistakes. Now, once again, I'm not telling you what you need to do, but I know that this is holding me back. It always holds me back. Even to this day, like, I've seen myself do it in the preaching. I've seen myself do that in the pastoring. And as I've not been pastoring these last couple of years, I see this fear creeping back in. Well, I know that I'm probably heading back there again. Okay. And this fear is creeping right back in where it was in the first place. You can't do that. You can't lead a congregation. You can't do the administrative stuff that's there. And what if all this happens? Okay, what if? You've been there before, right? You got to get over that. You got to get over what people might think of you. You didn't have the answers for them. You didn't know what to say, or you even stumbled up there when speaking, or you didn't lead the business meeting right, or you made mistakes in the decision that you made for the church. None of these things matter, man. What matters is your faithfulness. What matters is you push forward. What matters is you keep moving to reach the potential that God has planted within you, that He wants to work out of you. And so a mistake is simply another way of doing things, Warren Bennett says. Expect to make mistakes and welcome them as a sign that you are moving in the right direction. Okay? Now, once again, if you're not gifted for this, and if it's not something that's in line with God's will, obviously, if it's I want to become the best serial killer I can be, all right, you're probably moving in the wrong direction. I'm going to be honest with you. You are moving in the wrong direction. You might make mistakes at that, and that probably needs to be a trigger for you to get right back on the right path. But no, if you have that first and foremost, seeking the Lord's will first and foremost over anything, if you're seeking Him, everything else will be added unto you, including the desires of your heart that are in line with His will. And when that takes place, you're going to make mistakes along the way because we're imperfect people. But with your eyes on God and not on what people think, and keep making steps in the right direction, then you can see those mistakes, welcoming them as an opportunity to not, I failed, but an opportunity to say, all right, we didn't do this the right way. God, what's the right way to do this so that I can move forward? And when you embrace it in that way, you start welcoming those teachable moments along the way with an expectation of growth to take place, and then you're moving in the right direction. There's the perfection gap. I believe it kind of ties into the last one. I have to find the best way before I start, and that stems from not wanting to make the mistake. I believe you got to figure out the best way. All right, we want to get in shape. It's time to start. It's time to get after it. It's time to drop some pounds. But I got to find the right diet. I don't know if it's intermittent fasting. I don't know if it's cutting my carbs. I don't know if it's a low fat intake, a low sugar intake. I don't know if I need to go macros, micros, whatever. A lot of people's issue is that they have to find the best way before they start. Okay. I've experienced this. Mine and my wife's. We've talked about running marathons, and we've talked about doing all this stuff. And I've found that this is kind of the thinking process that sometimes she goes with. It's like, well, I need to do it, but we got to get a game plan on how we're going to do it first. All right, and we're going to run a marathon, but we got to have a game plan on how we're going to run this marathon. And oftentimes she puts her plan before and she gets after it. But sometimes I sit there and I watch the time go by until we find the right diet to start, or the right running routine or whatever. And what happens is you look back over all that time that you've lost when you could have just started and worked out those details later. And so if your goal is ultimately to run a marathon and you have to find the best way to do it, you're going to find your way, yourself at that marathon, not being trained for that marathon. If your goal is to lose 30 pounds and you got to figure out the right way to do it, by the time that time comes around, Christmas time, you're about to pack on the next 30 pounds, then guess what? You're going to get 60 pounds heavier because you've already put on weight in this last few months trying to figure out the right plan for you. And so just start cardio. Just get started with a diet. Just pick something and get after it. And what happens is time goes on, you learn from the mistakes. I picked the wrong one here. This one ain't working for me. But you keep getting after it. Starting is what you have to do first. So you have to get started if you want to find the best way. And you'll work out those details as you go. I found that to be true in my own life. I want to learn boxing, or and what ends up happening is I'm working through boxing, I'm working through kickboxing, I get just distracted by certain things, or a plan gets to a certain point where it's not doing what I want it to do, or not teaching me what I want to teach, then I've made all this progress, and then I just move around it, and then get another plan to pick up with. But what's happened is I've advanced that entire time and not stayed stagnant. Okay. And I'll put hanging a heavy bag there. And once you get started putting that thing up, you start realizing there's a whole lot of problems with and potential ways of doing it better. And it can be a headache. But I sat there and looked at my heavy bag for several months that I've been wanting to train with. And I remember thinking, I got to put that up. But at first, I got to figure out how to mount that thing up there. Well, I got to figure out how to hang it. Well, I just started, man. I just went up there to hang. I'm going to hang it like this. And what happened is I realized, okay, that I didn't do it properly that time, but at least my heavy bag worked. And I was able to hit it for a couple of days before it fell out of the ceiling. And then I came up with a better way. But I got all that training in before I found the better way, hung the bag the right way, and then continued to be consistent with my training. So it's just like driving down a road. You don't just get all the information on the front end. You're driving down the road with your headlights. All you see is what you are, progressing through. As you drive down the road, you don't know the curves, you don't know the twists, you don't know the turns, you don't know what lies ahead beyond those headlights. So you just get started and you find things out progressively as you go. So if you want to see more of the way to reach your potential, then you need to get moving. So whatever that goal is, that passion is, whatever that motivation, whatever that aim is that you're trying to get to, you got to get started before you get there. And once you get started, you're going to see that keeping going is going to be the goal at that point. Then there's the inspiration goal. That's what this is talking about. I don't feel like doing it. All right. I don't feel like doing it. Here's the thing. You're never going to feel like doing it. Motivation is not going to come strike you like a lightning bolt out of heaven or anything like that. Sometimes you get really motivated off of watching a Rocky movie or watching Karate Kid or something like that to start getting after it, watching Arnold Schwarzenegger's pumping iron. You get motivated by that sort of thing, and every once in a while that comes along. But the chances of that causing you to get started and sticking with it, man, it's going to be few and far between. Motivation is a feeling. Okay, it's a byproduct of getting started and getting after it. And as you get after it, the motivation comes. So you might be asking, what if I can't motivate myself to lose weight? What if I can't motivate myself to test my blood sugar? So you should test your blood sugar. You should lose weight. You should do your homework. You should do chores. But what if I just can't find the motivation? Well, here's the thing. If you never find the motivation, you won't lose weight. You won't test your blood sugar. You won't do your homework. You won't do your chores. You're less likely to do those things. It's not going to strike you like lightning. Like I said, it's something someone else, um, it isn't something someone else can do for you or force upon you. Okay. Motivation comes after you just get started doing it. So take a word from Nike, dude. Just do it, right? Forget motivation. Just do it. I love how Goggins, he might be on the slide somewhere, I don't know, but no, I don't think it is. But Goggins, he says he wakes up, he's supposed to be the baddest dude on the planet. He wants to be the baddest dude on the planet. He wakes up in the morning and he don't feel like running. He runs, miles, hundreds of miles a week, okay, or whatever. He don't, how do you get motivated? He's like, I just make myself do it, basically, is what he's getting after. He says sometimes he wakes up in the morning and stares at his shoes for half an hour, right? Because he just don't feel like doing it. But then he makes himself get up and do it. And then after you start doing the thing, this is something that I've seen that's true in my training, in my working out. I sitting on the couch. I know that I should. I need to get up there and get after it. I'm fixing to have to get up there and get after it now. After you start doing the thing you need or the thing you want to do, that's when the motivation comes and makes it easy for you to keep on doing it. So motivation is a byproduct, and the prime example is I got my son up there to try to start training some boxing with him. He's a young kid who is kind of hooked on video games and everything, and so I took him upstairs to get after it. The first few days of this, man, never has he felt motivated to get up there with me. Never. I drag him up there. Myself, I'm not even motivated to do it, but I know it needs to be done, and I know it should be done, and I know it needs to be done for my child. And so we're walking upstairs and I'm dragging my feet up the stairs, but I'm just doing it. And then once we get going, he has his little 10 minutes of pouting and everything else, and his attitude is in a bad place, and I have to correct him on that. But as we begin the actual process of training, of doing the ladder drills, of hitting the bag, of walking through and sparring and doing stuff like that, you see his whole demeanor changes and he begins to be motivated. And it's a byproduct of starting. It just kind of sneaks up on you. And before long, he's having fun doing it when originally he was crying about doing it. And here's the kicker. If you start seeing results, then it helps you become persevere in it, right? If you start seeing results, you might not feel like running, but you know that you should. And you just start one day and start running. You run a quarter of a mile, and then you continue to stick to that plan. Well, in those times of running, it will be killing you at the time, but then the energy comes along with it to help you get through the most of the run. But as you continue to stick with it and continue to do it day after day, and you continue to do that for about a couple weeks, then what happens is your pants start fitting better. People start noticing after about a month, and they say, what are you doing to lose weight? Well, when you start getting that, well, then more motivation floods in for you to continue the process, and continuing the process is going to be key to reaching your full potential. So you're more likely to act yourself into feeling than to feel yourself into action. That's 100% true. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you're going after, man. Sometimes I don't feel like going to work. I got to go back to work tomorrow. I don't feel like going back to work tomorrow. But once I get in the groove of it, and once I start teaching, and once I start cutting up with them kids, then I'm going to feel like being there in that moment. And it's going to help me endure through the rest of the day. And then I'm not going to feel like going back the next day, but I keep going back because I got to feed my family, right? And I'm seeing that that's actually helping me feed my family. And it's actually helping me build relationships, helping me pour into kids and all of that. And so, man, just do it. Just start, act. The reason to keep growing is it far outweighs the reasons to start growing. And so you discover the reasons to stay with growth only if you stick with it long enough to start reaping the benefits. And that's what I was talking about. When your weight loss comes and you start reaping those benefits, then that's going to continue to be a motivating factor for you, and you can find motivation along the way as you do that. But don't let motivation be the reason you start. Don't let a Tony Robbins video, or don't let, if that's what it takes to get you to act right now, do it, right? But what if Tony Robbins ain't there? What if David Goggins ain't there? What if your iPod's dead? What if all those things happen and you've lost progress? Okay. And so you have to train yourself to say, do it now, 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 do it now. And the reason I'm saying that is because he says in his book that somebody told him at a conference one time, when you get up in the morning, say, do it now 50 times. When you go to bed, say, do it now 50 times. And I don't know if that's something that is beneficial or not for you, but whatever you got to do to make yourself act now, that's what you got to do. And you got to do whatever it is you got to do, right? Sorry, some Rocky coming at me. All right, so you want to commit a year to start and then stick with it. So whatever it is, make a plan, commit a year to it, act now, and commit to making yourself get after that every single day. And I promise you, benefits will come. Now, here's the thing. You're going to love the process as it goes, especially as you're seeing results in it. If you're not seeing results in it, then you tweak it and you learn and you find the plan that works best for you in that, but don't wait to start to do that. And here's the and as you do that, honestly, sometimes you might even find that your pursuit that you were going after, the progress that you were making towards a particular purpose or a particular passion or a particular goal, you might find out that that wasn't in line with what you are truly meant to do in the first place. You might find through that process, what am I doing all this for? I don't even want that goal, right? And that's okay, because if we eliminate one of those passions or we eliminate one of those goals that were not really in line with your ultimate purpose, well, now you've narrowed it down to find your ultimate purpose. And so there you go. So starting is the key, and sticking to it. Then the last gap that we want to talk about is the expectation gap. Man, I thought it'd be easier than this. And as I said before, nobody said it was easy. As Tony, I forgot the guy's name on P90X. Nobody said this was easy, right? It's not easy. But here's the thing. Nothing right worth achieving is really easy, right? If you're going to become your best, whatever that is, then it's going to take work. And a lot of people start a process and they think they want to do something, and then they realize how difficult it is to do stuff, that it's not a hill worth dying on, and they quit, even though there's something within them that says that they should keep going. They should. So if I'm on a health journey and I want to become a better, more in shape or more fit because of my health reasons, that's a non-negotiable. That if I want to live right, I want to be healthy, then it's not easy to do that, but it's necessary to do that. Other things that people put before them, like I said before, is a goal or something that's it's not a hill worth dying on. It's not something they care anything about. You care about life. You might not care about football. And that's where kind of I ended up this past year, is I wanted to serve and I wanted to minister and I wanted to be for everybody what they needed me to be. And I stepped into a role believing and knowing that it was the right thing to do at the time. But what I saw through that process is all the hard work that comes to that. I'm not afraid of hard work. I got a strong work ethic, but all of the drama that comes along with it, all of the criticism that comes along with it, all the sacrifices that comes along with that, any good coach who loves and has a passion for football is willing to go through all that criticism, go through all that drama in order to be the best that they can possibly be, if that's what they want. If they don't have a passion, they just want to be like a mediocre football coach and hold a job, then they're going to get to that point, and then they're going to get complacent in that point, and they're not going to grow any further and not be all that they can be in that. But anybody who does not have that passion, like me, to be the best football coach I can possibly be, because football's not my passion, sports are not my passion, then when you approach these difficult tasks, the discipline that comes with that is going to cause you to evaluate, is this worth dying on this hill? Is this worth straining for this goal? All right. And for me, football, athletics is not. For preaching, for ministering, for helping people walk with God, that's worth the walk. And guess what? I can do that in a classroom. I don't have to do that on the football field. I can do that from a pulpit. And that's, I think, where ultimately the satisfaction, the fulfillment, and the calling in life is taking me. Okay. And so it weeded out something, and I don't have to think about it anymore. I know that that's not my passion. I'm not going to go down that road and waste any more time with that. I'm going to spend time in my lane, pursuing and becoming and growing and developing in the areas that God wants me to develop in, so that I can become whatever it is He's ultimately bringing me to be as a minister of the gospel. So it's not easy. Nobody said that. People create their own luck. Some people are waiting on luck. But here's the thing, you have to prepare. That's growth. You got to have the right attitude, plus the opportunity, plus doing it. That's what equals luck. Luck isn't just, it's not just going to be some chance that something's handed to you. It's going to take work to do it. It takes work to prepare. It takes work to change your attitude on situations. Opportunities present themselves, and it takes work to go through the actions. You create opportunities as you go through this process. Okay? You take action on those opportunities, and you continue to take action, and that equals your success. You can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. I've changed my direction. I'm not where I need to be yet, but I'm on my journey, and this obviously is a lifelong process. So if you want to reach your goals and fulfill your potential, you want to become intentional about personal growth. Making the transition. So you want to ask the big question now. Now you want to ask these questions. Where do you want to go in life? Where is it you want to be? What is it you want to do? Where are you intended to go? Where are you supposed to go? What direction do you want to go? And what's the farthest you can imagine going? Not like, hey, how long is this going to take me to get there? You need to have this in your mind. How far can I go in this? So you determine where you want to go, what direction you want to go, and then what's the furthest I can go in that direction. So that involves your understanding your purpose, understanding your passion, and then your potential is going to continue growing your entire life. So how far can I stretch this potential? And like I said, there's endless possibilities when you narrow all these things down, and you're going to find fulfillment. You're going to find difficulty along the way. You're going to find mistakes along the way, but you're going to enjoy the process of learning, growing, and moving towards your ultimate goal. So do it now. Ask the questions now, and then do it now. Remind yourself daily, morning and night, multiple times a day. It creates in you a sense of urgency that this has to happen now. Someone said the greatest danger you face in this moment is the idea that you will make intentional growth a priority later. Later is a dream killer. It's one of those countless obstacles we put up to derail our chances of success. How many times you find yourself, I'll do that tomorrow, or I'll get started next week, or I'll get around to that next week, or I'll get around to that tomorrow. That's something that kills our dreams. It's something that kills our progress. Putting things off, chances of you getting it done is going to be slim. So answering these questions will get you started on the personal growth journey. Make the most of whatever you've been given. Invest in yourself. Give growing your best so you can become your best. And this is the word that hurts. And these are the words, get out of your vocabulary. Get them out of your vocabulary. Josh, me, get them out of my vocabulary. We'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it eventually. I'll get out of debt tomorrow. I'll get out of debt. I'll make a plan to get out of debt tomorrow. I'll make a plan to restore my marriage relationship eventually. I'll get a job and start looking someday, right? Why do we do this to ourselves? It's because familiar is easy. We like comfort. We don't like straining. We don't like stretching. We don't like taking steps. But you have to take that step, and you got to do it now, and then you got to keep taking steps if you want to see progress. And then face your fears. There's going to be a fear factor no matter what you do. You can sit there and say, I'm courageous, I'll do whatever, whenever, however, I ain't scared of nothing. Everybody has a fear of failure on some level. Some of the greatest boxers in history, right? Some of the most praised wild animal like Mike Tyson admits he has fear of looking foolish, fear of being defeated, fear of being not being who he believes himself to be, right? All of those fears come to your mind and can be a factor in your progress. Fear of trading security for the unknown. I mean, I'm leaving something behind that I'm not sure of what's in the future. I've done that several occasions in my life when I've moved to take jobs, when I have taken my whole family across, country to step into the unknown, fear of failing. And yes, there were some failures that came along with that, mistakes that I made with that. But what I did see was God's provision. And what I did see is I learned a lot about myself, and I grew tremendously through that trial. Okay, so I traded security, I traded comfort, I traded a paycheck, I traded comfort of my own home to go out in the unknown. But what I got to see a beautiful countryside. I got to see a beautiful part of America that I've never seen before. I got to learn more about myself so that I can grow from that. And so fear is going to be there. You can't be overwhelmed by it. Fear can be of being overextended financially. I don't have enough money to do this. This is going to be taxing on my life. Okay, that can be a hindrance for you as well. Fear of what others will think. We've already talked about that. Fear that success will alienate peers, and it will. Which of those fears most impact you? You want to think about, and we're going to work through those fears again and see which one of those impacts you the most. Fears of what other people will say or think, fear of losing friends, fears of financial security, fears of the unknown, fears of failure. Which of those fears are going to keep you or have been keeping you from going after what you know you should be going after? So we all have fears and we all have faith. The question is, it's like that old two dog analogy, and one bowl out there to feed. You can feed the dog of fear, or you can feed the dog of faith. And what you want to keep doing, and what John Maxwell brings to our attention, is that we need to consistently feed your faith and not your fear, because your faith is what's going to allow you to be, your faith is what's going to help you be successful in your pursuing of your purpose, your passions, and reaching your full potential. All right. So which one are you going to allow to be stronger? Keep feeding your faith. And then you want to change from an accidental growth to intentional growth. People get in ruts because they're comfortable. And they just getting by with life and having happy little accidents happen to them. All right. This ain't Bob Ross. You know what I'm saying? You don't want happy little accidents happen to you on the way. You want to get a game plan. You want to take steps of faith, take risks, and know that that's the price you pay to reach your full potential and to grow. The only difference between a rut and a grave is the length. How to identify if you've been in a rut? So how do you know if you're in a rut? Is your growth accidental? Do your plans start tomorrow? Or do you wait for growth to come? Do you learn only from your mistakes? Do you depend on good luck? And do you quit early and often? These are showing you that you're in a comfort zone, you're in a rut, and it's hindering you from your growth. You accidentally do it, you plan it off for the next day, for tomorrow, you wait for something to come to you, you learn only when you make mistakes, and then you depend on good luck and you quit whenever things get difficult. Here's how you know. There's more. Fall into bad habits. Are you falling into bad habits? Do you talk big but don't act? Play it safe all the time, never taking risks? Or do you think like a victim, like everything's always going wrong for me and all that? That attitude matters. Relies only on raw talent. I see this so much in sports. I see this so much with people with so much potential that rely only on the talents that they have. And they stop. They don't think they have to grow anymore because they've got it all figured out. But sooner or later, people surpass them and they never reach their full potential. They could be so much greater than the greatness that they think they already have achieved. All right. Stops learning after graduation. You let things happen to you, you let learning happen to you, and then when it's all over, you don't take control of your own learning process. You just allow whatever comes your way to teach you, including your bosses and your careers and the bare minimum that they're going to be giving you, and nobody grabbing you by the hand and bringing you to a place of success. If you stop learning after graduation and you don't take initiative, you fall into a rut. Intentional growth, here's the difference. It insists on starting today. It takes complete responsibility to grow. Yes, people are going to help you along the way sometimes, but you take complete responsibility and you say, if it is to be, it's up to me, right? Often learns before mistakes. So you're going to make mistakes, but if you can control that a little bit on some level by learning and taking in knowledge and planning before you make those mistakes, you're less likely to make unnecessary mistakes, and you will continue to learn from the mistakes that you make. Relies on just hard work. Hard work, let me tell you this, it does pay off. If it's directed in the right place and if it's truly planned out, then hard work brings progress. Perseveres and doesn't quit. Perseveres through the hard times because it knows where it's going is worth it. Fights for good habits. Follows through. Takes risks. Thinks like a learner, always learning. You've never arrived. You're always learning. And I learned that from many of my mentors. Always learning, always have a spirit of humility will ensure that you are growing. Relies on character, okay? and never stops growing. You have not arrived. You are in the process of arriving, and you will bloom as you do that. So our conclusion, Eleanor Roosevelt says, one's philosophy is not best expressed in words. It is expressed in the choices or the choice one makes. In the long run, we shape our lives and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die, and the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. And so that comes to the conclusion of this lesson.